Well, I can't give a better intro than that. Thank you, Melody. If you don't know what I'm going to be reviewing this week, if you somehow missed the title of this episode and just clicked it randomly, I, of course, will be reviewing Power Rangers Once and Always, the 30th anniversary special that was released on Netflix. The 1 hour special, I don't know if that's necessarily a spoiler, but that is what I will be getting into today on this episode of the Film Realist podcast, the film and TV podcast from a complete nobody that's hopefully for somebody. I'm your host, Kyle Naranya. No, Melody will not be here for the episode. I just thought that would be possibly the best way to open the show. There will be time codes in the description, so I will have a non-spoiler section of the review as well as a spoiler section with specific details and plot elements you may not want to have spoiled for yourself. So without further ado, let's get into the review of Power Rangers Once and Always. Now, I've already made a mistake that I want to correct, which is it is not called Power Rangers Once and Always, which would encapsulate the entire 30 years of the entire franchise. It is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, and that is an important distinction that I will get to later in spoilers. This is a detail that I am going to dive into a lot in the notes I've made for this episode. So, of course, if you've seen any of the marketing material for this, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always is the return of David Yost and Walter Jones as Zach and Billy, two of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers cast members, of course, Billy and Zach. Zach, who left the show in Mighty Morphin, and Billy, who was a character that we did see all the way through the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers era. Power Ranger Alien Rangers. That title always I forget because it is a separate DVD, but it is sometimes considered to be just a part of season 3. And he was a cast member on Power Rangers Zeo, and then unfortunately was left the show and had to be written out in a way that wasn't necessarily satisfying. So it is an incredible opportunity to have two of the main cast members returning for this 30th anniversary special. There are characters who are not present for this to celebrate the 30th anniversary special. If you are listening to this, I'm assuming you know that unfortunately the actress who played Trini Kwan, Thuy Trang, passed away tragically in a car accident. And Amy Jo Johnson, who was, of course, Kimberly, is not present. And Austin St. John also not present for this anniversary special. Jason David Frank also not present. And there may be some specific plot elements to why they are not in this, but I can't get into that specifics. This is going to be difficult because there is only so many elements that have been released for the marketing material. However, the one specific part that I can talk about is this special marks the second time in franchise history that we actually had the death of a character, the death of a Power Ranger. The first time was that of Kendrix, who was the first Pink Galaxy Ranger and was replaced by Corone, who was from Power Rangers not Lost in Space, just Power Rangers Space. And so this is canonically a big deal, although spoilers for Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, with how that show wrapped up, Kendrix did come back. The actress had to leave for medical reasons and ultimately did come back to finish the season, which is amazing, and was in recovery by the time they were shooting the finale. But them being unable to do that with Thuy Trang, having the story focus on that, I think is a really wise thing to do. If you are specifically celebrating the 30th anniversary of this kids franchise, which continues to, I know, blow a lot of people's minds. I have continued with this show, not throughout the entire 30 years. I would say in my early 20s, continued the back catalog that I had missed, but I have seen up now all 29 seasons. What's most notable about this for me is that this is the third, realistically, fourth if you do include the 50th anniversary. that we've had for the show. There have been other attempts at doing anniversary specials. The 15th, which was during Operation Overdrive, and then the 25th, which was during Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel. They have certainly varied in quality. In terms of where I would rank this one, I still think the best Power Rangers anniversary special, ironically being the first, is the my brain is mush right now. It's been a very long day, but Forever Red, which did things that this special, because of its focus, was unable to do. Having representatives from every single show was awesome. Now, there's no actual plot explanations as to why there is just Red Rangers, but they're the most notable color, if you don't include Tommy as a Green Ranger. But it worked out that Tommy was, well, technically two Red Rangers, being Zeo and Turbo, but was the only Red Zeo Ranger and was able to be included in that. The 50th anniversary with Operation Overdrive is fun because there are representatives from different seasons, only one specifically being from pre the Disney era with Adam returning, and then everyone else, of course, being from a New Zealand-based show, which is where it shot later. It's been mentioned before, but the Legendary Battle was an absolute miss in terms of the spectacle it could have been. One of the issues I know that they ran into was the fact that it included Rangers, well, typically for the Super Sentai, which is where most of the action is taken, Japanese show then being reshot with some American footage, is why Power Rangers has been so successful to begin with, given how cheap you can make the show. Included Rangers who were the same character having different Ranger costumes and having to shoot around that, but ultimately I think it was a failure. Dimensions in Danger is fun, getting different Ranger representatives, but ultimately it does focus on Tommy, and it is one of the, I don't know how to phrase this without it sounding hollow or crass, but over the history of Power Rangers, there has certainly been a focus on Tommy and Jason David Frank's impact on the show, and it is massive. He was one of the most important characters introduced in the initial run of Mighty Morphin and continued to have a legacy throughout the rest of the show. But Dimensions in Danger with the 25th anniversary really did put a focus on Jason David Frank, and with his tragic passing, I believe at least has shifted the reception to the Tommy praise that some of the anniversary specials have had, and has changed the perspective in a good way, because obviously that character can no longer be in the anniversary specials given his passing. So the 30th anniversary special is doing something entirely different, which is focusing on one team, that being the Mighty Morphin team. There are elements of the other shows, and I can't get into that because it's spoilers, but with that being the focus, I do think this fails as a 30th anniversary special because there are 27, if not 26 other teams that just aren't a part of this show. This focuses on actors who did suit up as Mighty Morphin characters, and if you are a fan of the show from that era, you are older and may not necessarily love that the show is the same. This is an hour-long special, but boy, is it a long version of a Power Rangers episode. For the good and the bad, it's absolutely ridiculous. It is wildly entertaining. It is great getting to see some updated effects for some of the elements, specifically with the morphing sequence, and getting to see the Zord, the Dino Zord, the most famous Zord of all time. I'm, of course, biased, in CG, so it can do things that a man in a suit would have not been able to do, which was super fun to get to see. Ron Wasserman does return as the composer, the man who is one of the most instrumental reasons, pun intended, in the success of Power Rangers, because he wrote the original theme song as well as all of the composing for the show, such as Go Green Ranger. There's countless songs that he contributed to the initial run of the show, and he continued to work on some of the other theme songs. The last he contributed, to my knowledge, is Power Rangers SPD, which is another banger. And so this episode I did enjoy. It is fun. It continues to have the over-the-top acting that Power Rangers is known for. If you are expecting a level of depth, given the fact that this franchise has continued on for 30 years, I do not think you are going to get it. But if you have little kids who like Power Rangers and you want to show them an updated version of that, parts of that original team, it is fun in that way. Getting to see Rocky as well as Kat back is super fun, getting to see elements of that. There, of course, is an actress who is playing Trini's daughter, who plays Min, and she is the it's tough to talk about, but I'm going to continue to try to do it for just a couple more minutes, in that is really the focus, is the death of Trini, and that being the central story element is great if you are like this special tries to do, focus on the original team. Only Mighty Morphin, nothing else. And you know what? I'm going to stop here. I'm going to get into spoilers. So I enjoyed this, most of it to some degree. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's wild. It's wacky. It is Power Rangers through and through, for its best elements, for its worst elements. I highly recommend checking it out, even if you haven't watched the show in 27 years since they stopped being the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I am now going to get into spoilers for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers once and always. All right, so as I mentioned, the plot of this focuses around the return of Rita Repulsa as a robot. I was critical. I don't know if I actually tweeted this. Maybe my self-control managed to steep in this point. That's not a very good sentence, but I'm going to continue. This episode is mostly a one take, so you're getting an unedited version, which you may not normally get. Hope you enjoy that. We get to see Rita Repulsa return as a robot, and that is addressed in the plot, which is great because it was something where, if you've been keeping up with the show, they continued to evolve that character, and she eventually showed up in Mystic Force as one of the Mystic Mother of the Morphin Grid, which was kind of insane, but continuing the run of the character post Power Rangers Space was something that I did really enjoy, maintaining some of the Zordon era lore after his passing in Power Rangers in Space. The Z-Wave being the result of the death of Zordon from Andros, wiping a certain amount of evil out of the galaxy. So Billy being somebody who was searching for potential remnants of him with his tech. One thing that I thoroughly enjoyed in this special is their continual use of his last name, which is Cranston. If you don't know, Bryan Cranston was a voice actor for some of the monsters on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers all the way back in 1993. So Billy Cranston got his name from Bryan, which I think is quite funny. And also why he played Zordon in the Power Rangers movie from 2017, which I still thoroughly enjoy. I think the balance may not work necessarily to the best possibilities, but ultimately I think it was a very entertaining film and managed to add some depth to these characters, and was the first LGBTQ plus twin spirit representation in Power Rangers, with Trini being gay, and has taken a longer time to become an element that the show was willing to address, not specifically with Trini, but with newer characters. Cosmic Fury, not Dino Fury. I'm getting it confused because the title is the third season of Dino Fury, but is called Cosmic Fury, which will soon be coming out on Netflix, the home of Power Rangers. And I've lost my train of thought. Where was I? Yes, but so this special is in the modern era. It is 30 years post Power Rangers. They are not teenagers with attitude anymore. We do get Jason, Tommy, and Kimberly written out in a way where they are captured, so that way we get to see the return of Rocky and Kat, and Min being the person who does want to become the Yellow Ranger, and Zach being her almost stepfather, not wanting her to join the war, which I did find kind of funny because teenagers with attitude, as I've said, is kind of the whole point. But regardless, that is, so the drama of this does work to some degree. I think there is a level of gravitas taken specifically with the reference to Trini's character, and having that, as I've mentioned countless times already in this episode, be the focus of what is driving Billy and Zach to get back at Rita Repulsa, not for vengeance. That's not what Power Rangers is about, but doing the right thing and stopping whatever her diabolical plan is, which here is to capture Rangers and use them to rewrite Power Ranger history, which is where I start to get disappointed with this, in that we have elements of Power Rangers who have been involved with time travel. SPD has been involved with time travel. Time Force has been involved in time travel. And we are getting to the point where SPD, which was in the future, I believe it was 2025 when it's supposed to take place. I should probably look that up really quickly. But we do get a reference to SPA and their main villain, which was something I did appreciate. Yeah, it's 2025. Look at that. And so that's a reference to it, which is really cool. We get what is that? There is a specific organization that we hear about, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Not Targaryen. All these words are sounding the same. Who is it? It is what are they? I don't remember what they are. Oh, the Trubian. That's what it was. The Trubian, who is the Empire that they do fight in SPD. So we do get to see Aisha and Adam, and the logo is SPA. So I don't know if this is what founded SPD. Again, that's not specifically referenced. We do get to see a bunch of Rangers in suits in little action figures, which is ironically reminiscent to how people were captured in Time Force, not SPD, which I thought was quite funny. And so I enjoyed the fact that Billy and Zach were the focus. They were they were both written out in poor ways in the show, in Mighty Morphin and in Zeo when they were written out. From all that's been reported or sort of figured out, with Zach and Walter Jones, it was a pay dispute. And with Billy, it was unfortunately due to countless interactions that had to do with harassment because he is also gay. Unfortunately, that was likely probably the norm in the 1990s, and I hope that we continue to grow as a people and that does not happen, because people do not deserve to be harassed for their sexual orientation. So having them be the leads is cool. I don't think that we get enough of Zach or Kat. We do get a continuation of Kat and Tommy's relationship that confirms that JJ, who I believe was introduced in the comics, their son, does exist. So while people may not love to hear this, Kimberly did not get back together with Tommy, which I know a lot of people were really hoping would be the case, but it holds true to the Mighty Morphin flash forwards that Tommy and Kat are together. So it's canon now. There's nothing we can do about it. So I think what I'm most disappointed about with this being a 30th anniversary special, I love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but there have been other great seasons of this show, and I believe that there was room to embrace some of the other shows. In my mind, the best anniversary special for Power Rangers, as I've mentioned, is Forever Red in doing so. But in other franchises, something like The Day of the Doctor, because I am also a big Doctor Who fan, managed to embrace the two eras at the time, with the Moffat era, of course, with having Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman being in the show, and David Tennant and Billy Piper having roles in it as well, and creating a character with the War Doctor, played by John Hurt, rest in peace, managed to embrace all of the modern era and gave cameos at minimum to the other 12 Doctors, and even teasing the 13th with Peter Capaldi, who was about to be joining the show just after the Christmas special that Matt Smith was going to do, Time of the Doctor. This functions more that I feel the upcoming anniversary specials are going to for the 60th Doctor Who special, where looking at a specific part of the show, a pinpoint series with Donna Noble and the 10th Doctor now being the 14th with David Tennant returning, I would hope that the 30th would reference more of it. We get Easter eggs spread out, but I think in the hype for this being a 30th anniversary special, it does fail to meet the monument of being a 30th anniversary special. If it's just an anniversary of Mighty Morphin, which is what it is at the end of the day, I think it's fun, and if you are a fan of the original show, I think you will enjoy it. Other than that, it does not scratch any itch for fans of other shows or other seasons of the show, which did leave me a little bit disappointed. It is a special I will return to, but in terms of the legacy of Power Rangers, I would rather watch Forever Red or Dimensions in Danger because they did embrace the history of Power Rangers without a specific focus to some degree, obviously outside of the fact that there was more of a focus on Tommy. But in paying respect to Mighty Morphin era and giving a compelling ending to Three Trang's run as Trini Kwan, and there is a little dedication to Jason David Frank and Three Trang at the end of the show, and ending with a very cool updated Power Rangers theme song intro was quite cool. I enjoyed this. I'm glad that they made it. I would hope in the future, if we do get to a 35th anniversary, that we get more specials with past teams, that with actors who may or who have not had legal trouble in day of recording. So that will do it for my Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always Power Ranger 30th anniversary special. Let me know what you thought. You can tweet at me at Kyle_Naranya. You can tweet at the show at Film Realists, or you can tweet at the Instagram. All the socials, you can send an email if you'd like, are listed in the show notes. I hope you have a more phenomenal week. I'll see you next time.